Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're gonna talk about orchid roots. That's why I have this big orchid here with me. I think Vandas are great examples when it comes to aerial roots. We're gonna talk specifically about epiphyte orchids and how their roots evolved, how they survive on the environment. I give you some tips as well. It's important and nice to know a little bit them in order to keep our orchids super healthy. If that's the type of content you are interested in hear about, if you want to know a little bit more about orchids, stay here with me and let's dive in. So first of all, I'm really sorry the light is fluctuating today, so I may be extremely bright and a little bit dark, and it's because of the natural sunlight here. I cannot control this all the time because my camera is not automatic, so now I'm probably all white. I hope it will be okay. So first of all, when we talk about epiphyte orchids, we are talking about orchids that don't grow in soils. Typically, these plants won't grow in soils. So not only orchids, but bromeliads and some other some other plants evolved in order to be living together with trees and symbiotic, I would say, not exactly symbiotic, but they will have a relationship that won't disturb one plant and will help the other. So in this case is what happens with orchids, evolved over time to live, instead of living in the canopy of the forest and maybe in a shaded area. When these plants evolved to go on top of the trees, they could absorb more light, they will have more direct light, and also more light available for them, which is amazing, especially when we're talking about big tropical forests. So these plants would have more availability of resource to grow. Have to think that light, it's a source of energy for plants. They will transform light into energy, into carbohydrate for them. Taking these out, the main function of aerial roots, as you probably imagine, is to attach the orchid to the tree, to the plant where it's growing. Gosh, the sun is annoying me a little bit. No, I love sun, but just to record the video. So the main function is definitely to attach the plant to the tree and also absorb humidity, exchange gas, as you probably imagine, and also photosynthesize a little bit. Most of the epiphyte orchids, their roots have chlorophyll, so they can do some photosynthesis as well. So they have all of these functions. Just to let you know that these roots that you see growing out of the pot, they are really important for your orchid. So never cut these roots, remember that they are important as the roots that grows inside your pot as well. So let's talk about some technicalities about the roots. Epiphyte orchids, their roots will emerge from the rhizome. The rhizome is that center axis where Phalaenopsis will grow their leaves. And when we talk about Oncidiums, for example, is that part where the pseudobulbs will come from. So these are the rhizomes. So in epiphyte orchids, the roots will come from it. They will have a cold gray color with a green tip, and this gray color is due to a very special feature of epiphyte orchids that's called the velamen. The velamen is this outer layer of the root. So now let's talk how orchid roots will absorb water. So the velamen, this outer layer that we see that's gray, it has a very complex system. It's a porous system, very porous system that will be able to absorb water from the rain, humidity from the tropical forest, and so a complex process of imbibition, and will be able to hydrate your plant and giving nutrients to your plant as well. Imagine a high-tech sponge that's able to keep water and also avoid water being lost, making this plant successfully living out of the soil. So this high-tech sponge or this amazing system made orchids super well adapted to live, as I said before, out of the soil. So it's a very important evolutionary mechanism for these plants to survive. So aerial roots are exactly that high complex tech that made them one of the biggest families of plants living on Earth. Now let's dive into the structure of the root. So the Velamen, called Velamen radicum, is this outer layer of cells that will be around other layers of the root system. The Velamen consists of a very porous mix that's basically composed of dead cells. It's this outer layer that will be able, since the cells are not alive in there, it's a little bit different. They have a different space inside of the cell to absorb the water. And how this water that touches, that's why they are gray, by the way, because the cells are dead, and when you water it, it becomes green because the water will travel to the inner parts of the root system. So now comes the question, how this porous system will keep water and the water will be able to travel to the inner part of the root system. So the key for this process is the Exodermis. I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Exodermis, that's how it's in Portuguese. Basically, is the next layer, is where they have passage cells, is where the water will come from this reservoir of water, that's the Velamen, will travel to the Exodermis, and there we have some special cells, these are called like passage cells, that will be able to transfer the water to the inner part or to the cortex, of the roots. It's like a physiological dance. I hope I made it a little bit simpler for you because I know how complex it is, but I will try to place some pictures as well. So picture this. A droplet hits the Velamen, gets sucked by capillary force, and moves towards the lower layer near the passage cells. As the water spreads, the Velamen minimizes evaporation, ensuring efficient water uptake. So now where things get very, very interesting is that different species of orchids will have definitely different ecological niches depending where they live. If I live in a cloud forest where I have heavy rain, I have more water available, my Velamen must be maybe thinner, or maybe will lose water to the environment more often because I do have more water available for me. Some other orchids will have thick Velamens or maybe less rain. And also, I may rely on the Velamen to photosynthesize for this orchid, which makes things a little bit different with orchids that don't have leaves. So there are other complex processes here that will have to do with the environment where the orchid is growing, the natural habitat. So now let's transition to some practical tips. As I said before, orchid roots are extremely important for our plants, for our orchids. Without healthy roots, we don't have a good system that will be able to absorb water efficiently, conserve water, and also make our plants grow, hydrate, and all the good things that we know about. But how can we keep our roots healthy? Importantly, as I said in the beginning, don't cut these roots. They are very, very important. I know they grow differently from our plants that grow in soil. They are growing all over the place out of the pot. That's super normal. It's amazing to have many, many aerial roots. Another thing is pot your plants in a mix that will give them some humidity, but also won't suffocate your roots. We have to be careful because the roots can get clogged with too much water, and maybe you can have a root rot. So it's very important to have drainage, to offer a lot of air around the root system with humidity. Always water your orchids when you notice that the roots are grayish, because it means that they need some water. When they are green, they are perfectly hydrated for the reasons that I told you before. When they are green, that means that the velamen is full of water and the water is being absorbed by the inner part of the roots. It means that we don't have any, when it's gray, we don't have any more water inside. So it's time for you to finally water your orchid. Keep a look at that. Look at the signs that your plants are giving. Look at the leaves, see if the leaves are dehydrated as well. So that's a good sign for you to know that you have to water your orchid. And again, take really, really good care of your orchid roots. Better care of your roots. You're going to have better blooms and a healthier plant. So as I said, the root system of orchids is extremely complex, made orchids one of the most successful groups of plants out there, being able to grow in different surfaces around the planet, different types of environment, and also successfully produce energy for their plants to grow. Keep looking after your orchid roots. I hope you have lots of blooming orchids right now. If you enjoy this type of content, if you think that's type of content that you'd like to hear a little bit more about, let me know. I try to make it very, very simple because it's extremely complex. I will leave an article down below. You can read more about it, how the root system will work with imbibition, capillarity, how we'll prevent this porous system will be able to grab the water, but also prevent that the water will be lost immediately. So it's very, very interesting and complex. But without further ado, if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. It helps me a lot. And have a lovely week.